Now that, Fitz whistled, is what the future should look like. The city, he reckoned, was about a mile long and 3 miles away. Its surfaces were uniformly silver and metallic. The buildings rose to varying heights, except that the tallest building was situated at the very center of the city. Fitz made out a series of elevated roadways, which described great loops across the city at all levels. The doctor's expression of hope was almost childlike. He cut an incongruous figure in his old-fashioned clothes, wing collars protruding haphazardly from beneath a lazily tied cravat, his hair long and windblown despite the absence of wind. They probably all did, thought Fitz. 3 strangers alone in a strange place. He rarely appreciated that anymore, rarely thought about how far he was from home. Doing so produced a thrill in his stomach that was 1 part fear and 3 parts excitement, and 1 part something else. Something was wrong. The doctor had been pacing around in tiny circles. Suddenly he stopped, turned back to Compassion, leaned over her and bellowed, "Daleks! Cybermen! We're under attack! Snap out of it, woman!" Fitz started at the sudden outburst. Compassion moved only her eyes, and they moved slowly and showed no interest when they finally did alight upon their target. The doctor straightened and withdrew, thoroughly disappointed. "Doctor," Fitz's problem was becoming more pressing. "I can't breathe." "Really?" The doctor bounded up to him, all enthusiasm again. Fitz couldn't help feel that he was more curious than concerned. The doctor gazed up at Fitz's nose and mouth with a raised eyebrow. "Everything looks to be in working order to me. Oxygen going in where it should, carbon dioxide coming out. Yes, that is the right way around for human beings, isn't it?" "I mean, I'm finding it difficult to breathe. It's an effort." "Ah, yes, well, I have told you about the effects of smoking upon the lungs, of course." A thought visibly occurred to him. He licked a finger, then held it up and looked at it. "And the air is a little less rich in oxygen here than you're used to. Don't worry, it's perfectly safe. I'm sure you'll get used to it." "That's easy for you to say." "Try not to think about it, that should help." "I'm worried about her." "Huh?" said Fitz, still more concerned with the fact that his chest hurt. "Compassion. She was so emotional, so full of life when she first changed. I thought it would be all right. But since then, she's become distant, aloof. She was never all that chatty though, was she?" "It's more than that. She won't respond at all, even out here. I can feel her in my mind. She's still in there somehow, but she won't talk to me. I have to wonder where it will all end." The doctor scampered towards the brain. He stooped down and examined his electronic foe closely. "Now let me think." He buried his face in his hands. "Mab, Macra, Maxellians, mad computers. Ah! "You only delay the inevitable," said the brain. Yes, of course. But first, if all elephants are pink and Nellie is an elephant, what color is Nellie?" The doctor's voice was speeding up, as it often did when he became excited. "Everything I say is a lie, and I'm lying now. No flashing lights, no does not compute. Tell me, which came first, the chicken or the egg? How long is a piece of string?" "Your statements are illogical. Therefore, I shall disregard them." "Oh," said the doctor, disappointed. "That never seems to work anymore." "Well, it's nice to know you lot have come on a bit anyway." He hopped back towards the fallen servo robot and brandished his sonic screwdriver again. "I am removing all oxygen from this chamber." The doctor heard a sinister hissing sound. He crouched beside the robot and adjusted the screwdriver. "In precisely 3.44 minutes, you will be unable..." "Yes, I heard you, but what do you hope to gain?" "You are intruders. You cannot be allowed to harm me." "Why not?" "I control the city's systems. Without them, the inhabitants will die." "But they'll die anyway, won't they?" The doctor kept his back towards the brain, but he heard its reel spinning back and forth in confusion. "They'll die because both you and the city are decaying. So, what if your intruders are here to help and not harm you?" It took the brain several seconds to process that problem, but then it responded in its familiar phrase. "You are intruders. You cannot be allowed to harm me." By that time, the sonic screwdriver had vibrated one of the robot's hands free at the wrist. The doctor snatched it up, delighted. He turned to the brain. 3.44 minutes, you say? But I resisted your sonic attack for longer than you predicted, didn't I? What if I can survive longer without oxygen too? Can you even be sure that I need it at all? He whirled around and with a manic grin hit one of the wall-mounted control panels with his makeshift weapon. How much damage do you think I can do in 3.44 minutes? He danced across the room, aiming blow after blow at the controls, sometimes causing explosions of light. When he reached the corner, he pivoted back towards the brain and brandished the artificial hand in triumph. Kill me and I'll take you with me. Talk to me and I'll help you. You've got nothing to lose. The computer's reel still spun. The hissing sound of departing air continued. Come on, urged the doctor. That's logical, isn't it? Don't disappoint me now. The doctor felt a surge of primeval fear as he skidded to a halt in the doorway of what had once been Rick's reception room. Through a haze of smoke, he saw a hulking shape that could only have been the ultimate weapon of which Rick boasted to Alec. There was something in its cockpit. He could see that it was the young man himself. He should have kept a closer eye on Rick, should have known that he was still dangerous, shouldn't have let him sneak away and do this. The reception room was a mess. The new hole that Rick had bored into its wall had been the final straw. Most of the ceiling had come down. Between mounds of debris, he could see only 5 makers. He needed to know what had happened to the rest. And then he saw one, pinned to the floor by a solid lump of rock. It wasn't moving, and even if it was alive, its legs must have been crushed. He dropped to his knees, cradled its head in his lap and felt for a pulse. But he didn't know what he was feeling for. Even so, he knew that the creature was dead. He could feel it. He realized that compassion was at his shoulder. He looked up at her, unable to hide the desolation inside him. He's killed it. Rick killed this maker, and how many others? They didn't see it coming. They couldn't see it because of me, because I was here. His voice was stilted as he felt her through their telepathic link, calming him, reassuring him. You've saved many lives here, she said out loud. You've made things better. Have I? You keep referring to the maker in the plural. It's a single entity. Some aspects of it have died today, but not the whole being. It is wounded, but it survives. And what is it thinking? Does it? No, Doctor, Compassion assured him. The maker has learned. It knows that we're different, that it can't blame us all for the actions of an individual, and it accepts its part in shaping Rick into the individual he has become. And Rick? It tried to communicate with him as he came through the wall. It was a crude, desperate attempt. It forced him to see the universe from its perspective. Fitz experienced much the same thing, but with far less force, and I was here to mediate for him. It blew his mind, the doctor whispered, horrified. That would be a colloquial way of phrasing it. Across the room, Sandra had extricated Rick from the drill, and he was bawling into her chest like a baby. Despite all he had done, the doctor couldn't help but feel sympathetic. He wondered what effect this experience would have on the young man. Perhaps he would become more understanding. He might seek revenge for his humiliation and pain, or he might have been driven quite mad. I don't want to go with it, said Compassion. Turning back to her, the doctor raised an inquisitive eyebrow. With the maker, she elaborated. It opened my mind so much, introduced me to so many concepts. I'm grateful to it for that. But I'm not lonely, and I'm not unhappy with what I've become. I want to stay with you.